All right, you can go ahead and ask your question.
What are your expectations for elders and deacons, spiritually and naturally, and are we meeting those expectations?
Oh, okay. I don't remember that part. Are we meeting those expectations? So I'm gonna just answer that real briefly. The question was, what are my expectations for elders and deacons, spiritually and naturally, and are they meeting those expectations? So my expectations is really just according to the word. For I expect, I think first and foremost, I expect the elders and deacons to have a sincere relationship with the Lord to the point where they can follow uh, the leader of this ministry. Where I can, I think any um, for any organization to operate and function the way it's supposed to function, uh, then the people in that organization have to follow the leader. Have to, without question, without their own rationale. Because here's the thing about leaders. Leaders, a leader in an organization, especially in the church, they're going to have more of an understanding and more of insight of where the Lord is leading the church than the than others will, if anybody else will. And so when you have a leader that has that, that's what his job is to lead, and to lead he has to be able to see. So I want you to think about it this way. Let's think about, like, how many of you ever seen a tank? And so let's think about, if you just let's just think about this makeup tank, this made up tank, where you have hmm we'll just use this as an example. Submarine. You got a submarine. How many of you how many of you seen the inside of a submarine, at least on TV, if not in person? Do you remember the little telescope they pulled down to see? Well, only one person can see that. That's the one that pulls it down and hold it to his eyes. Only one of them can see it. Everybody else just got to program the stuff the way they're supposed to program it, if that makes any sense. They have to trust what he sees above through that telescope. But everybody can't see that. Only he can see that. Does everybody understand that? And that's the way it is in the ministry. The Lord puts the telescope in the leader's hand where he sees it, and everybody else just have to take direction and trust that he sees what he sees. If that makes any sense. And so to me, and that's what I expect: unwavering uh, commitment to the vision of this ministry. Unwavering commitment to the vision of this ministry. When you have people that do not, that don't, that listen, to me, for a ministry to function right, I got to have the best idea all the time. Does everybody understand that? That there is no other way it's gonna function. My idea's got to be the best because my idea comes straight from heaven. If that makes any sense. It don't mean that I don't ask people, hey, what do you think about this? I do that all the time. But when it's all said and done, that's the mindset that we have to have. That the leader has the best idea. But so a lot of churches, they run into problems when the leader don't have the best idea. Somebody else got the best idea. What about this or what about that? And so I expect uh, unwavering disciples that's gonna stick with it, and that's why I say, I just sincerely believe that if you're a part of a ministry, you ought to follow it. Period, without question, and that's what I expect. We, unfortunately, the world is not designed that way anymore, where people are being taught to question leadership and to question those in authority. But that's not the way God designed it. That's not the way God's design is. We have to be in that place where we don't question authority. Does everybody understand that? To me, when you say out of your own mouth and you know in your heart If you could say that God led you to this ministry, then that's your clue that that you can't question what where God have led you to, if that makes any sense. Does everybody understand that? It would be different if you out church shopping and you just going from from church to church, and that's not okay. I think I found something that I like, you know, that might be a little bit different. But if you say that God led you to this ministry, then you have to say God led you here to follow without question. That's the only way a ministry is gonna function properly. Is and listen, and that those are the only kind of people I want in this ministry. People that listen, I'm not gonna mislead you. We're not gonna go jump off of a bridge somewhere, you know. But you have to be willing to follow without question. Without Does everybody understand that? So that's those are the things that I expect. Uh, naturally, so just following without question. Just being able to be told to do something and doing it without question and knowing that it's gonna work out. However, however it work out, it's gonna work out, and that's not just for deacons and elders. That's for anybody. Anybody in this ministry, I expect you to follow to the T. Now we have some people that, they gonna question. They got their, mind made up about different things because of maybe where their heart is. But me personally, uh, I expect people to follow without question. That means moving my feelings out of the way. That means moving my experiences out of the way. I don't. Me personally, I'm not gonna say that I don't care about your experience, but that don't count here. Does everybody understand that? We live in a different experience here, and so we have to be willing to follow suit. So that's what I expect. Uh, to be able to lead without the extra, and spiritually, I can't express that enough. That's, to me, I think that's one of the most important things. That's, you know I ought to be able to say, let's do something, and we're gonna do it without question. Let's not, and things like that. Um, Spiritually speaking, I expect, the elders in this ministry to be examples to the body of Christ. To be good examples, um, to be spiritual leaders themselves. Where they care about the souls of people. Like what the Bible says, and also not self-willed. But really caring about people and the souls of people, and not and are willing to be put last if need be, if that makes any sense. Like you're not self-promoting, if that makes any sense. That's what I expect for for I expect the elders in this ministry to at least know where this ministry is going and know what it takes to get there, if that makes any sense. I believe, when you're talking about a second tier of people in a ministry, those people need to know where I'm headed. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? In other words, an elder, you think about kind of like how we worked around the house and did work at different places, and um, if you know what I'm wanting to do, then you ought to know what come next without me having to tell you what come next, if that makes any sense. And I mean, just being able to pick that up, like, okay, this is what's next. This is what's coming next. You being able to see something that's going on that need to be handled, without me telling you let's handle that, if that makes any sense. Like just seeing what comes next, and getting out there and making it happen. Because to me, that makes my job easier. Instead of me, I don't want to have to lead people by the hand because maybe they don't understand the vision, or maybe they don't care to kind of carry it out. And so I think that's important as leaders, that you be in tune like that. That's what let you know that that we're functioning the way that we're supposed to function in this ministry. Is when you know we don't have to talk much. We just moving forward like we're supposed to because we know what direction we're supposed to be moving to. If that makes any sense. So that's what I expect. Uh, the leaders are to be good examples for the elders and the deacons to be good examples and to be sacrificial, if that makes any sense. Kind of like what we talked about with the apostles that when the Lord told them, let's, let me use your boat to cast out and things like that. To be sacrificial, to not be self-willed, and I think I want people in this ministry to love God's work just as much as I do, where that's the most important thing to them. And I think that makes a difference. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that? That to me, if you're a part of a ministry, you are to love it more than you love your own life, because that's the only way it's gonna function. Does everybody understand now? Like that's what I think, because again, our job is to save souls and to train and raise up disciples for Jesus Christ. And so we have to love that. Our personal life ought to be on the back burner. Now that's the only way that it's supposed to be. Does everybody understand that? And so that's what I believe. That's what I expect naturally. For them to love uh, love the work of God and to be able to see it. Does everybody understand that? To be able to see it. Um, I know for a fact that God's got big, big plans for this ministry, even more than what we're doing now. And I'm looking forward to that day. But I need for people to believe that. I believe it, but I need for other people to believe it. Because to me, if you sincerely believe it, then it makes you get behind it. It makes you push for it, if that makes any sense. It'll make you pray more. It'll make you want to read your Bible more because you don't want to be left behind, and okay, we're going somewhere. This train is going somewhere, and I want to be on it when it leaves the station. You see that? And so that's another thing I need for people to believe where we're going, to believe what God is going to do through this ministry to help people, and to want to have that same passion and desire. Does everybody understand that? That's always one of the biggest failures in any corporation, in a company, in ministry, whatever you want to call it. You got the founder. You have the person that started it. He's passionate about it because that's his baby, if that makes any sense. And he don't mind doing anything because he love it. He'll clean toilets. He'll flip hamburgers. He own the burger joint, but he gonna do it all because that's his baby. But then you got some people, he gonna hire some people. They don't have that same passion. I'm gonna avoid cleaning toilets if I can. I don't really want to do that. I flip a burger too, but I got bills to pay, and that's the only reason why I'm here. You know, one of the things that when I was in high school, that's the way it was. One of the things that made Japan thrive. Do y'all know what that was? Free enterprise, real free enterprise. Do you know what that means? So you have a man who starts a company, and then he hires people to help with the functioning of the company. As the company makes money, they're like co-owners of the company. They might not be making more money than the owner, but as the stock in the company go up, so does their paycheck. If that makes any sense. They're not waiting on the government to say, okay, minimum wage is $4 now. Minimum wage is $5 now. They're not doing that. That's what makes them so successful. Those people over there, when they're working for companies, they know I can get a raise. My raise depends on how well my service is. In other words, if they support the company, so do y'all see, what is that? Is it Food Right? What's that store up there in Jackson? Right before you turn on 18. Well, Food Giant. What is the sign say? 100% employee owned. Does everybody understand that? So the people in there working, they're part owner, and they have this idea that if I'm gonna put my all into it because um, I'm a part owner here, and I'm gonna get paid like I'm part owner. They might not be getting big paychecks if that makes any sense, but they know as the stock and as the value of the company goes up, that means the more pay I'm going to get, if that makes any sense. So it's their baby as well, as opposed to what's the norm here in this country. You got people at the top making billions of dollars, and them trying to get away with paying the people at the bottom as less as they can. Does everybody understand? And so, no, that's not how we want it here in this ministry. We want people to feel like they're a part of it, and like they, you know, you think of it this way: your soul is your own investment, and your soul is linked to the success of this ministry and what we're doing for Christ. If that makes any sense, when you go to heaven, you're going to be rewarded for not being a renegade and not doing your own thing, but what you did. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? Part of your reward is going to be if you were sent to be a part of this ministry. That's going to be part of your reward. What did you do in this ministry? Does everybody understand that? Does anybody here have a church somewhere else I don't know about? So in other words, you see what I'm saying? It's part of your heavenly reward has to do with what you're doing here in this ministry and how well you're doing it. So let's think about that employee. They get what's the minimum wage now? $7, $7.25, something like that. Let's think about that person. Are they real spirited when they flipping burgers? Are they smiling? Welcome to McDonald's. I'm great. It's a great day here. Are they doing that? No, they setting the pickle on one edge of the hamburger and the tomato on the other edge of it. Ain't nothing matching. The meat hanging halfway out. Does everybody? How many of you ever got that kind of hamburger where you had to go put it together yourself? They mean that mess. Have it your own way. You put it together how you want it. We just gonna give you the items in the bag. So when people lose their identity in a ministry, they begin to act like it, and the ministry fails and begins to fail. When people feel like they're disconnected that way, where they feel like, well, what's in it for me? What am I getting out of it? And that type of thing. And so we don't want that around. We want people who sold out to the Lord and who love souls and who love God's work. I think that's the only way it's going to work in a ministry, and that's what I expect from the elders and the deacons of the ministry and really from anybody. I just feel like that. If you're going to be in the ministry, I think you ought to be all in it, and it ought not to, which I feel like we got some really, really good people in this ministry. I really do. I'm really proud of the people that we have here in this ministry because we're able to get things accomplished, if that makes any sense. I don't take it lightly that we bought property down in Mississippi, and most of that money, what do we pay? Just about over $35,000 for it, and most of it came from the people that's here. Most of it, if that y'all understand. We got two people in this room that gave $10,000 each. We got somebody else that gave around $7,000. If that makes sense, like people were, that's I'm glad that people were hearing from God to be able to do that. If that makes sense, and obeying the Lord to do that. If that makes any sense, and I'm not putting any stock on money value. If somebody gave $1, I was just as happy that somebody believed. Just show me that you believe in it. If that makes any sense, that's what matters to me. Just show me that you believe in the direction that we're going in. If that makes any sense, and so that's what I expect for people to obey the Lord and to believe in the vision of this ministry and to believe where it's going, because listen, that's what it's going to take for demons to come out of people. We got to believe it together. Did everybody understand that? Yeah, that's what it's going to take. We can't have nobody sitting there doubting and just off to themselves, just wondering when they're going to have their chance to cast out the devil. If you're there, you've taken part in it in it coming out. Does everybody understand that? If you're not, then you're just giving it somewhere to go when it do come out. And that's the truth. And so, those are the things that I expect from the people in this ministry. And so that I think that's a question that we also have to ask ourselves. Have we? What was the last question there, Brother Jones?
The last part of the question is, are we meeting those expectations?
And that's a question I think that we have to ask ourselves. Am I meeting those? Am I meeting the expectation? And I want to share this with you sisters, since we're here. I've been mostly talking to the men, but I think it's important that, when you're dealing with when you're talking about a husband and wife team, I think it's important that the way the wife shows support for a ministry that she's a part of is by being who she's supposed to be as a wife to her husband. If a husband should not have to spend his time ministering to his wife, trying to get her straight when she's hearing the same word that he's hearing. And I think what it does, it takes away from what he's supposed to be doing in the ministry. If that makes any sense, that's what makes that dangerous. I don't think a husband should have to correct his wife every day, every week, every month. If that makes any sense, it takes away from what he's supposed to be doing. Everybody understand that? And so I think we touched on that in the message before, but I just believe that I think that's one of the best things she could do for her husband. If no matter what I'm doing, my wife always make my life easier. She always, if she knows if I go out and I'm doing something, whenever I come back in, food is ready, because she knows when the last time I ate. I don't have to tell her to cook. She'll know. Yeah, you've been out doing this, and you've been doing. I know you're gonna be hungry, and so it's already ready. When I walk in, I'm smelling food because she's getting it ready. So she makes my life easy. Before we come to fellowship, before we go to church, anywhere I go, most of the time when I'm sitting around the house, I just got on warm ups. I'm just really relaxed. I don't hardly get dressed up like that at home. But whenever I get in the shower, when I get out the shower, the clothes I'm going to wear, they're on my bed. They're already laid out for me. If I got dirt on my shoes, she's getting the rag and she's cleaning the dirt off of my shoes. She goes as far as even putting my belt through the loops for me. Just, so she's doing everything but just picking me up and taking me to the car. But we're gonna work on that. We're gonna get her big and strong. She's gonna get muscles. But that's what she does for me. She's thinking ahead for me. She knows I'm gonna wear clothes out the house. So she know that. And I'm not saying she have to do that, but that's what she does for her ministry to me. She laid my clothes out for me. She'll ask me, "Do you feel like is it anything you don't want to wear?" I know whatever you pick is fine with me. That's fine with me. So she'll when I get out the shower, my clothes are laying on the bed, my shoes are down there on the floor. All of that. If she done cleaned them up for me, if they had any dirt on them, she does all of that for me, and so she makes my life easier. If that makes sense, I don't have to ask her where my food at. What, I didn't ask her to get my clothes out for me. I don't ask her. I've never asked her to do that. But that's what she takes that upon herself to do that. And so it to me it makes my life easier because it's just one less thing I have to do. I don't have to go to the closet and pick out clothes. Because me, I wear the same stuff all the time. Sometimes I forget I got stuff in there. She go in there, and she pick the stuff out and put it together for me. So I think as I think sisters, I think that's one of the best things you can do for your husband. You make their life easier, if that makes any sense. Don't you're supposed to be a help, not a hindrance. You ought not to be his only ministry. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? You, so how he want things done. Do those things. You know what's pleasing to him. Do those things, because if the home is tore up, then the ministry is gonna be tore up. If that makes any sense, people gonna bring their issues to sit in church and try to pretend like they're having a good time. That's what, and so we don't want those things to happen. Happy home, happy church. And so so that's I thank God for my ministry, for my wife. She's really a help. She's really a help, and so I think that's another thing. Uh, yeah, I think that's another thing. My wife uses wisdom. When our children were younger, she wouldn't just bring all kind of stuff to me when I come to the door, when I come home. She would just, she could look at my face and she could read what I feel like, and I ain't got to hear it right away. Let me get home, let me relax a little bit, And then sometimes she'll say, "Well, this happened, but I took care of it," whatever the case is. And so it's just she understand I already got a load, if that make any sense. And so I think that's important. And so I expect that from the sisters in the ministry. It all is supposed to function and flow together, if that make any sense. I can't get the help I'm supposed to get from the men in the ministry if the women in the ministry aren't doing their parts. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, if they busy just trying to get home right and all of that, then it takes away from what else God is wanting to do. If that makes sense. I mean, even down to the preaching. Even down to the preaching. If something is wrong in church, or something is wrong among us, you gonna hear about it. And the Lord might have a sermon He's been wanting to preach for years. But as long as it's got women in the church that's unsubmissive, if it's got husbands in the church not loving them, you gonna hear about it. That spirit can't help but to prophesy against it, if that makes any sense. If it's something wrong, it's gonna be addressed. And honestly, I just rather just preach to people out in YouTube land, beyond us. That to me, that's one of the biggest helps in the ministry, is when we grow and we start doing what we've heard already, so that the preaching can go beyond us. Does everybody understand that? And so those are the things I expect, and we have to ask ourselves: are we meeting that expectation? Are we carrying our part of the weight that we're supposed to carry? If that makes any sense. Because what happens when one person drop the ball or drop their part, other people look and they start dropping it because they're discouraged and they notice that the weight is heavier, as people begin to drop it. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep moving forward, and we want to make sure that we're doing our part so that we can move forward. So that's one of the things we have to ask ourselves. I'm really pleased with the direction of this ministry and where the Lord is taking it overall. I believe we got a fantastic, a really good team, support team. I feel like we can do better though, if that makes any sense. I feel like we could do better. I'm glad that we're doing good. I just believe we can do better. And I'm one of those people, I'm going to push it to the limit, if that makes any sense. Don't you bring home seeds to me and say you're average. If you were average, you'd be in your hometown, in your own church somewhere. Does everybody understand that?
Yes,
You have to know God expects you more out of you. If He moved you to another state, He didn't move you to another state to just sit and warm the pews. You see, So you have to know that up front, that you're above average, Not saying we better than anybody, but God expects more out of us. If He told you to pack up your bags and move to Tennessee to be a part of this ministry, then that ought to we ought to be marching like it. Does everybody understand that? And so I'm satisfied with I'm really satisfied. I mean, I ain't gonna say satisfied. I'm happy with what we have so far, with all the brothers that's here, the sisters that's here, the potential the direction that we're moving in. I just believe we can do better overall. I believe that we can. I believe that we can. I believe we can do better. Me included. Me included. All right. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody had anything to say about it? So does everybody understand the importance of not questioning leadership? And I'm not saying people do that. I don't ever remember somebody just coming to me, approaching me, saying, "Why do we got to do it this way?" But the way I pick it up is through people's actions. If you're doing something contrary to what's being said, then you're questioning the leadership. If that makes any sense. And so that's to me, it's the same thing. And so that's not that we don't. We want people to do better. Just follow the word and have a zeal for God, a zeal for souls, and know you're part of something bigger than us as individuals, if that make any sense. All right.